All right, guys and girls. So this is kind of the first time I'm doing this. Well, probably since day one of the class where I posted the geography assignment. But if you're watching this, you have taken your test at this point, and I hope you've done well or feel confident. You've gotten a score that you're happy with. If not, that's okay. We got plenty of quizzes and tests and essays that you could still improve your grade with. But right now I'm sharing my screen, which I guess is a little bit different from what I'm used to doing. I'm just going to post this on the screen, and then if you need to keep copying down, then obviously just pause the video. All right. So what happens to our country after George Washington steps down? This is a 2-day lesson, so you're going to get part 1 today, and then when I see you live tomorrow, you get more of the general overview of what's going on. This will only take about 15 minutes or so. So let's see what happens to the country when George Washington steps down. Now, if you remember from his farewell address, he warned us of a couple of things, okay? The start of Unit 2, which is called A Nation Dividing, all right? The start of our unit is called A Nation Dividing, and we're going to see how our country starts to divide. And it's going to start with this moment right here, where Washington warned us of many things. Stay neutral, okay? Don't get into any debt. But one of the things he warned us about was don't have political parties. And immediately, like that, we have political parties. Immediately get created. So let's talk about this. Funny meme here on the right. I like showing. I love this picture of George Washington because he always looks like so disappointed and like, come on, guys, really? Like, we're really doing this? So I love it. You know, you had one job, not to make political parties. Now look what you've done. All right, we have a system that's become a part of our unwritten constitution where we have political parties still existing today and going to be in the presidential election next week. Okay, pretty much running the whole show. All right. So despite George Washington stating in his farewell address to not create 2 political parties, America divides over major issues. We have a group called the Democratic Republicans, not to be confused with Democrats and Republicans. They are a group with the name Democratic Republicans. That is political party number 1. Now, eventually that group would just change its name to the Democrats. All right. That was led by Thomas Jefferson. He was the most famous Democratic Republican. And another group led by the Federalists, which were led by Alexander Hamilton. And I should probably also just put here and John Adams, because John Adams will come up, I think, first when we get to our next presidential election. So Alexander Hamilton is going to be the leader of the Federalists, and John Adams will be the leader of the Federalists as well, facing off against Thomas Jefferson. Now, Alexander Hamilton and John Adams did not really get along with Thomas Jefferson, at least at this point in time after George Washington's presidency. All 3 of these people are in George Washington's cabinet, and they were constantly disagreeing over these major issues, ladies and gentlemen. And since they were disagreeing over these major issues, this led to some issues that we kind of had once Washington left. So like pretty much whatever Thomas Jefferson wanted, Alexander Hamilton wanted the opposite. And same thing with the John Adams. So they really started to have some issues. All right. So if you're still copying, you can pause the video and finish copying this down. But I will move on to the next slide here where we're going to look at the differences between both political parties. So you're going to have a chart here. You're not going to have to write down all of it, but let's start with this. Please write down, okay, the Federalists and Democratic Republicans. Okay, we already have the leaders, so you just need to write down the first one, the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. All right, for now. And the last one you have to write down is the 6th one. All right, so you're going to write down 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Though we're going to speak a lot more about the 6th one a little bit later. All right, so let's first start with the Federalists. They were generally ruled by the wealthy class. And probably, I guess, the next question you're going to ask is, if the Democratic Republicans turn to the major Democratic Party we have today, were the Federalists the Republicans? And that answer would be no. The Republican Party came out a lot later on in our country. I don't even know what the Federalists would be most like today. All right. It'd actually probably be more similar to a Democrat in the political parties of 2020, but I don't have a group it ended up becoming. So Alexander Hamilton, he was from New York. He was the ruler of the wealthy class. If you have time over the next couple of weeks, and I'll mention this, I'm sure, tomorrow, Disney Plus has came out with the Broadway play Hamilton, which is a very famous play, which deals with a lot of the stuff we're talking about right now. All right. So it's a rule by the wealthy class. Thomas Jefferson, though, said that his political party would more consist of the everyday people, the farmers, the people that were not as rich. Hamilton and his political party, hence the name Federalists, wanted a stronger federal government. So they were a huge group, obviously helping to pass the Constitution, and now they have just become a political party. And again, political parties are just viewpoints on how a government should be run. So the Federalists believe that we should have a stronger federal government. The Democratic government, Republicans believe that we should have stronger state governments. They believe that the federal government was already way too strong. All right. The next one here is the Federalists. They wanted to manufacture, they wanted factories to be a huge emphasis on the economy. The Democratic Republicans, they were more led by farming and agriculture. All right, so what ends up happening is more of the Northerners, okay, people in the New England and middle colonies and states, they want to are usually more Federalists. And where there's more farmland in the South, you're going to have more Democratic Republicans. All right, we'll go through more of this tomorrow, but I just want you to have an emphasis on what each political party wanted. Now, this is a really interesting thing. The Federalists believed in the elastic clause, meaning that the Constitution was a very flexible document, and if it wasn't set in the Constitution, doesn't mean that the Federalist doesn't have the power and the federal government doesn't have the power to do something. Thomas Jefferson was the complete opposite at this time. You'll learn how that changes in American history. But he was what's called as a strict constructionist. Now, constructionist was a term from your textbook. All right, you guys can go back to the one that we did last week to kind of help you out with some of those. But a constructionist is someone who believes exactly what's in the Constitution's written, and that's the only thing that can be done. So Thomas Jefferson doesn't believe in implied powers, doesn't believe in the elastic clause. He just believes whatever is in the Constitution is what the federal government can do. Everything else should be left to the states. Okay? Now, Alexander Hamilton wanted to propose something you're going to learn tomorrow called the national bank. Where should our currency go to? Should it go to one bank led by the federal government, or should it go to all the state banks? Thomas Jefferson believed that the state banks should be in control. Hamilton believed the opposite, and we'll see how this becomes a problem tomorrow. Okay? And the other things that you'll notice about tariffs and trade, we'll talk more about. Okay, so again, if you need to pause the video at this point to finish copying this down, please do. But these are the major differences between the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans. These are the major debates between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. And these would be the two major political leaders once George Washington leaves office. All right? So when we go through the election of 1800, you'll see how the Federalists and the Democratic Republicans will go at it to try and win that presidential election, but we're not there yet. I'm going to show you a brain pop coming up here on political party origins. We're going to watch it. I'm going to say a couple things, and then you guys will actually be out of here. So I'm going to share this tab instead. I'm going to have to sign in, I'm sure. Okay, doing that. And let's get it.
And in closing, I'd like to thank the people of Toledo for all their support. You can bet that when I'm elected president, I'll be back here to catch a Mud Hens game, visit the Hippoquarium, and eat a Tony Paco hot dog. Any questions? Dear Tim and Moby, can you tell me how political parties in the U.S. got started? From Jamal. Sure thing, but I'll need my chief political advisor up here to help me out. Thank you. When George Washington was first elected president in 1789, there were no political parties. In fact, nobody even ran against him. Not then and not when he was re-elected in 1792. Both times he won every single vote in the Electoral College, the body of representatives that officially votes for the president. Well, Washington was a unique figure. His military victories during the Revolutionary War had earned him the support of nearly every American. They also made him a respected figure on the international stage. Even the British had to admire his skill and dedication. Washington believed that political parties would weaken the strength and unity of the brand new United States. Well, it didn't quite work out that way. When Washington took office, he and Congress created the Cabinet, a team of 4 presidential advisors. Together, they were supposed to chart a new course for the young country. But they didn't always agree with one another. Take Thomas Jefferson, the Secretary of State. Jefferson owned a plantation in Virginia, and he believed that the country should be led by independent farmers and landowners like himself. He opposed a strong federal government because it would limit these folks' individual rights. To Jefferson, the best government was one that governed least. On the other side of the coin, you had Alexander Hamilton, the Secretary of the Treasury. Hamilton couldn't have been more different from Jefferson. He was from New York City and had worked as a banker and a lawyer. I don't think he looked like that. Anyway, Hamilton believed that the federal government should be strong and financially independent. To achieve this goal, he set up a national bank, the U.S. Mint to physically produce money, and the first federal tax system. His policies favored northern merchants, investors, and manufacturers. To help push his plans through Congress, Hamilton reached out to his friends and also to business.
So again, I just want to reemphasize a couple of things. Okay, political parties, they're just people that join these political parties or align themselves with a particular party are think very similar to these people and their views on how the country should be run. So if you're a farmer, you're most likely going to become a Democratic Republican. If you were a banker, you'd probably become a Federalist. You're usually going to go with the political party that goes with your viewpoint. Now, a huge problem with political parties is sometimes political parties will say things or do things that you don't agree with. So maybe you're a farmer, all right, but you don't agree with tariffs. All right, and if you don't agree with tariffs, then you have a tougher decision. But ultimately, people are going to go with the group that they feel most comfortable with, and this is something that adults do. Even today, they align themselves with a political party. I think it's best, in my personal opinion, if you don't align yourself with a political party, you just kind of judge each candidate and each situation for itself. But not many people do that. All right, and that's all started back in 1790 here.
Leaders from America's largest cities. My advisor informs me that these people formed the Federalist Party, America's first political party. To oppose them, Jefferson and his friend Virginia Congressman James Madison formed the Democratic Republican Party. Yeah, after that, things started getting nasty. Pretty much every politician in America was forced to choose a side. As you might expect, the Federalist Party was popular in the North, while the Democratic Republicans were strongest in the South. In 1796, candidates from the two parties faced off in the nation's first contested election. Jefferson lost to Federalist John Adams in a close race. In 1800, though, Jefferson became president, and the balance of power tipped toward the Democratic Republicans. After Hamilton died in 1804, the Federalist Party slowly withered away. And with no real opponents, the Democratic Republican Party broke into rival groups in 1824. Yeah, that eventually set the stage for the formation of the Democratic and Republican parties, which you can learn more about in our Political Parties movie. This is true. Throughout our country's history, lots of different parties have appeared and disappeared, but since the beginning, our government has been based on a two-party system. That means that for most elections, two parties tend to dominate the voting. So, are there any other questions?
So what I want to mention is there's a secret coded word that I've kind of put in the post that you're going to have to post to make sure that you've watched the video. The word is two-party system. Okay, if you write down two-party system into your notes, then I know that you've watched the full video and you're good to go. Please post the notes with the secret code word maybe at the top or wherever so I can see it so you can get credit for today's assignment. We will continue this stuff tomorrow. We're going to look further specifically at Alexander Hamilton and how he kind of helped our country out early on as leader of the Federalist Party. All right, so that's it for today. That's all I needed. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Again, post the notes with the secret coded word at the top. All right, thanks.